You're not unlucky. You're not overlooked. The truth is, the world isn't against you. It's just waiting for you to think differently. The door isn't locked. Your mindset is. And once your thinking shifts, life won't just open up, it'll make way. Every mountain you've ever faced was never meant to stop you. It was meant to be climbed, or better yet, moved. But mountains don't move for people who think small. The world is not shaped by those who wish, wait, or wait. It's shaped by those who think with precision, intention, and authority. Your reality bends not to your emotions, but to your mindset. The way you think is the blueprint for how your life unfolds. If you see yourself as powerless, you'll live like a victim. But if you think like a ruler, even setbacks will serve your purpose. You see, your thoughts are magnets. They attract people, opportunities, and even resistance, depending on their strength. Weak thinking invites confusion. Fearful thinking welcomes defeat. But courageous, focused, disciplined thinking that bends time, opens doors, and shifts atmospheres. The world responds to mental clarity. It listens to those who speak from conviction, not noise. It rewards those who don't ask, what if I fail? But rather, what must I become to succeed? Everything that exists, buildings, systems, wealth, art, began as a thought, not a lucky break. A deliberate inner vision held long enough to manifest. If your mind is cluttered with limits, the world reflects those limits. But when your mind is clean, sharp, and guided by purpose, the world begins to cooperate with your vision. It starts rearranging circumstances. People begin to take notice. Doors begin to swing open, not because the world changed, but because you did. You cannot expect to change your life if you're still feeding it thoughts rooted in fear, lack, and doubt. Great thinkers don't allow old beliefs to run new seasons. They uproot anything that doesn't serve the future they see. They're not casual with their mind. They train it like a soldier, guard it like a treasure, feed it like a garden. They don't entertain thoughts that shrink them. They challenge them, replace them, rebuild them. And that's why their environment bends, because their mind commands it to. The person who controls their thoughts controls their outcomes. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you expect, and expectations are born from thought. If you think like a servant, don't be surprised when you keep being overlooked. If you think like a leader, don't be surprised when people start following you without explanation. It's not magic, it's mental frequency. What you dwell on, you attract. What you think about consistently becomes your strategy. And your strategy becomes your success or your failure. So here's the shift. Stop thinking as if life happens to you. Start thinking as if life happens through you. Stop reacting. Start designing. Ask bigger questions. Instead of, can I do this? Ask, how can I outgrow this? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this shaping inside of me? That shift in thought changes everything. Because now your mind is no longer running loops of panic and hesitation. It's running frameworks of purpose and solutions. The person who dares to think differently becomes the person the world cannot ignore. People will say you're lucky, but they won't see the internal transformation that demanded the external results. They'll say you changed, but they won't realize you simply started thinking in alignment with your greatness. That's the secret. The world is neutral. It's your thoughts that give it meaning and direction. Change the meaning, and the direction follows. You don't need to force your way in anymore. Start thinking like the person who belongs at the table. Carry the mindset of someone who adds value, not someone begging for it. When your thoughts match your destiny, your presence begins to shift rooms. The world bends to the thinker who no longer sees limits, only levers. Levers to pull, strategies to apply, faith to walk in, and results to build. So from this day forward, think like it's already yours. Think like every challenge is training you, not breaking you. Think like you were born to rise, not to blend. Think like the world is your canvas, not your cage. Because once you do, you won't chase opportunities. They'll start chasing you. Your thoughts are not random. They are the master architects of your reality. What you see around you today is the residue of what you believed yesterday. A life of confusion, stagnation, or powerlessness begins in a mind filled with scattered, fearful thoughts. But clarity, success, and transformation are born from a focused mind that dares to think with purpose. The world doesn't shift for those who wish, it shifts for those who think in alignment with greatness. You can't expect change outside if nothing is evolving inside. Every thought has a direction, a shape, and an impact. It is not harmless, it is powerful. Thoughts become conversations, conversations become choices. choices become patterns, and patterns become destiny. What you allow to repeat in your mind silently scripts your future. If you keep rehearsing limitation, don't be surprised when doors remain closed. But if you think from purpose, the world will begin to reflect the strength you silently carry. The world isn't impressed by your feelings, it's moved by your certainty. You can cry, scream, or hope, but unless your thoughts are anchored in unwavering belief, nothing around you will adjust. Circumstances are neutral. It's your internal clarity that moves the needle. The more certain you're thinking, the less resistance you'll feel. Not because the obstacles vanish, but because your perspective evolves. Life bends to leaders of thought, not reactors of emotion. When you know what you want and think with boldness, even your silence speaks loudly. You don't have to prove anything. Your conviction does it for you. Emotion without intention is chaos. But when your thoughts are disciplined and grounded, even your presence begins to influence outcomes. The person who thinks with depth doesn't beg life to cooperate. They think with such clarity that the world aligns. Your mind is magnetic. It draws to you what resembles its dominant frequency. If your thoughts are anxious, insecure, and negative, your life will mirror that confusion. But when your mind is filled with calm determination, possibilities, and people of the same spirit will begin to find you. Thinking is not passive, it's active construction. You are either building a cage or creating a corridor of breakthrough. The mind is constantly drawing in energy. When you feed it with faith, purpose, and strategy, you elevate your magnetism. What you expect, you attract. You are a mirror, reflecting what you think inwardly. Raise your inner standard, and the outer will reflect it. Your thinking is a filter for all of life's opportunities. If the filter is broken, everything gets contaminated. But a clean, focused mind pulls clarity, power, and connection straight into your reality. There is a difference between surviving and designing. Surviving is reactive. Designing is intentional. Many people think just enough to make it through the day, but never deeply enough to change the shape of their life. When you think with design in mind, every thought becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your future. You're not just thinking about what's urgent. You're building what's essential. You're not responding to pressure, you're writing the blueprint. Designers don't allow outside noise to dictate their architecture. They think beyond the moment. They visualize the outcome. They hold the future in their mind until it becomes real. Your thoughts should not merely be coping mechanisms, they should be construction tools. Don't think in reaction, think in creation. Don't ask what's possible, decide what's necessary. And when your thoughts shift from endurance to expansion, your life becomes a masterpiece. Every thought is a seed and life is the soil. What you think is what you plant. Some seeds grow quickly, others take time, but all will show up in the visible world eventually. You cannot think about failure and expect to harvest success. You cannot dwell on pain and expect to live in peace. Life does not ignore your mental planting, it multiplies it. Your harvest is not what you want, it's what you feed daily. And if your inner dialogue is filled with fear, you're growing force of frustration. But when your mind is filled with faith, your outer world becomes fertile ground for miracles. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are cultivating them. What are you allowing to take root in your thoughts? Examine it. Uproot what weakens. Water what strengthens. Because eventually, what was once hidden in the soil of your mind will rise in the sunlight of your life. Your focus is your superpower. Whatever you give your mental energy to will start expanding. If you constantly think about obstacles, those obstacles will grow taller in your imagination until they feel insurmountable. But if you fix your thoughts on solutions, even chaos will shrink under your clarity. Focus sharpens your internal lens. It defines what matters and silences what doesn't. Most people scatter their mental energy across distractions and wonder why nothing changes. But those who master focus start to notice the subtle shifts around them. Their time becomes sacred. Their decisions become faster. Their growth becomes visible. Focus doesn't just control attention, it controls transformation. When your mind stops wandering and starts concentrating, you begin to gain momentum. And momentum turns ordinary thoughts into extraordinary results. Protect your focus and your world will start to organize itself around your goals. When your thinking is driven by problems, you stay stuck in loops of fear and reaction. But when your thinking is powered by purpose, even your problems become fuel. Purpose-based thinking doesn't ask, why is this happening to me? It asks, what is this developing in me? The difference is everything. Problems make you feel small. Purpose reminds you that you're being shaped. Shift your thoughts from victimhood to victory, from confusion to clarity, from panic to power. The obstacle in front of you is not your enemy, it's your training ground, but you'll only see it that way if your thoughts are aligned with growth. Purpose-focused minds extract lessons. They build strategy in pain. They refuse to let situations define them. They define what the situation means and command what it will produce. If you continue to think like the version of you that struggled, you'll keep reliving that struggle in new ways. Growth demands that your thinking evolve before your environment does. Who you used to be has no business deciding who you're becoming. You must think from the future, not the past. If you want to walk in freedom, your thoughts must reflect someone who already is. That's not pretending, that's training. You're rehearsing victory until it becomes natural. Old thinking keeps you bound in invisible chains, but new thinking introduces new choices, new reactions, new results. People don't change by accident. They change when their thoughts no longer accept what they used to tolerate. I don't think from memory, think from vision. The new you won't emerge until your thoughts give it permission to be born. Powerful thinkers move differently. They don't chase, they attract. They don't push, they position. The force they carry isn't in their voice, it's in their clarity. When your thinking becomes refined, focused, and intentional, your environment begins to shift without force. People sense certainty. They gravitate toward inner order. The world opens for the person who knows where they're going. Big thinkers don't try to dominate, they simply command energy by showing up with unshakable vision. It's not about being loud. It's about being clear. When you're clear, your steps become strategic. Your words become sharper. Your timing becomes divine. Don't fight for what your mind can attract through precision. When you think correctly, the world bends not out of fear, but out of respect. The size of your thinking creates the ceiling of your life. If your thoughts are small, your life will never break through that invisible boundary. Thinking small may feel safe, but it suffocates your potential. You are not born to live confined. By limitation, you were meant to challenge it. Every time you entertain a larger thought, you push the ceiling higher. Every time you stretch your imagination, you create room for greater impact. Your limitations aren't real, they're rehearsed. Break them by imagining what's possible and refusing to shrink. You don't need permission to expand, just the courage to think beyond what you've seen. Your future is not trapped, it's waiting on your mental expansion. Once you think bigger, your choices follow. And those choices will build a life where the ceiling becomes the floor. No thought is harmless. Every single one is either building you or breaking you. If you allow negative thoughts to run free, they'll quietly sabotage your self-worth, your actions, and your energy. But when you become intentional about what you think, you become the gatekeeper of your own power. You can't afford to be passive with your thoughts. They're not just visitors, they're builders. You must filter every thought. Does this grow me or shrink me? Does this align with my calling or distract from it? The strongest people aren't emotionless, they are thought disciplined. They know their future is too valuable to allow random ideas to plant confusion. You don't need to think less, you need to think better. And when better thoughts become your norm, better outcomes will become your reality. The world doesn't change because you demand it to. It changes when you transform internally and start thinking like the person who already owns the outcome. Transformation always starts in thought. When you elevate your thinking, you don't need to force results. They begin to appear. You'll notice people treating you differently, not because they changed, but because your presence has shifted. You'll find that what used to resist you now makes space for you. Doors that stayed shut begin to open. Opportunities you once chased now come looking for you. That's not magic, that's mental authority. Life reflects the way you see yourself. And when your thoughts reflect strength, clarity, and alignment with your calling, the world begins to move. Not because the world is different, but because you are.